Missing paid content, missing free content, 2-hour loading screens, broken gameplay. That is the current state of TFT. And of course it is happening because TFT is currently trying to get away from League's Hextech engine, and it is trying to update to Unreal Engine 5, which is a step that not many companies would even try to do. And now we absolutely understand why. We started speculating that things wouldn't go as smoothly as we would have hoped after Riot released their third video talking about the current state of TFT. Of course, this was after the new set with the new engine was already tested on PBE, and so it was the third time they admitted that things weren't exactly smooth, but they were working as hard as they could. Now, one fun thing that people brought up is that in the video where they admitted that they are working hard, if you have a look at the background, they are watching streams. Jokes aside, there is a good chance you might be watching this video at work right now, so no hypocrisy. Anyway, in their last video focusing on the state of TFT, they confirmed that they are focusing on the gameplay impacting bugs, which means the visual side of the game might not exactly be polished. Now, as you'll see in a second, polished might be a strong word. Anyway, not too far after that, TFT actually got out of PBE and it went live, which meant all the feedback was fair game, with the majority of the feedback in fact coming from the same place. You see, Riot mentioned that after TFT transitions into Unreal Engine, there's gonna be a good chance that not every cosmetic will be available at launch, because they have to remake all the VFX and all the materials in a new engine. So it makes sense that something like this would happen, and so after I launched TFT for the first time, I wanted to check out what was missing. Okay, it seems like some little legends are missing. Oh, there's a check mark that lets you see how many are disabled. Oh god. Oh my god. Now stop! Does this scare you? Is this something that gives you anxiety? Well, funnily enough, this is something that you might be able to avoid using today's sponsor. You and I. We are the same. We own the ancient machines known as personal computers. They are like the modern mobile devices, except stronger, more flexible, and most importantly, they are way better at letting you code. Which is exactly what you can do very easily with the help of today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by boot.dev. Boot.dev is by far the easiest way to learn how to code. Instead of sitting through lectures or reading books, you are thrown straight into the action and you can try what coding is really about. Conquering your inner fears. And what better way to start than jumping into an RPG universe, where you gain XP, collect loot and level up. Of course, variety is also included, no matter if you want to learn Python, C or Go. Boot.dev can truly teach you whatever language you're interested in. Best part is you are learning about good old backend development, which is guaranteed to give you good times in your career since it is still one of the highest paying jobs in the industry. And to make the learning as smooth as possible, of course you can try the training rounds, which can give you an infinite amount of problems to hone your skills. And just like that, you would be ready to join the various community boss fights, which of course you all fight using code. And if you just wanna see how it feels to be a knight in a coding armor, you can try it all for free with their demo. So don't let your friends get torn apart by a beast. Join them in the dungeons. So go to boot.dev and use my promo code Necrit to get 25% off of your first year if you choose the annual plan. With that, many thanks to boot.dev for sponsoring this video, and now back to classic RPG universes. Okay. On the last episode of checking back on TFT. Oh, there's a check mark that lets you see how many are disabled. Oh god. Oh my god. So yes, as you can see, about half of all Little Legends and Tacticians are disabled, because they are missing VFX, or perhaps they are missing textures, or perhaps the animations are misaligned, or perhaps they are missing animation blueprints entirely, because that's how Unreal Engine works. There is simply a lot of reasons why a cosmetic should be disabled. But hang on a second, this only shows all the cosmetics that I own. There is actually a check mark that shows you how many I don't. Oh my god. Oh my god. So yes, it turns out the vast majority of all the tacticians are not available. Worst of all, the expensive ones are down too. This is so many little legends missing, I would be surprised if they are all gonna be back by the end of this set. And just so you know, this set launched yesterday. But yes, leaving the classic list of little legends unavailable, that's not good. Leaving the expensive Unbound cosmetics also unavailable, now that's bad. Leaving Chibi Gwen unavailable, knowing that Gwen is one of the most used chibis in the game, well, now you are asking for an angry mob to be at your doorstep. Of course, this story is exactly the same with arenas. You can see that about half of all the boards are gone. Booms are even worse. I would say about 10% of all booms are in the game currently. And don't get me started on portals. Literally, only 2 portals work. The default one and the one from the new Battle Pass. Because you know, you need to show people that the new set works. Now, the biggest issue that came out of all of this is that all the paid content is not available. Which means you made all the cosmetics that people already bought unusable. Now, I understand that this is only a temporary thing that should be coming back as soon as possible. But again, there is so many cosmetics that are missing that I can't see all of this getting fixed anytime soon. Worst yet, I can't imagine the crunch time that is currently happening around the team. And you know what's the best thing to do when 90% of all cosmetics are down? Well, of course, you try a new thing and you release Chibi Shivana at triple the normal price. Yeah, people caught on that one fast. And so, without a smidgen of a doubt, I would say that some kind of compensation for this disaster is in order. I mean, back in the day, people used to get a little bit of RP whenever the servers were down. So, looking at the situation, TFT should be getting the same treatment. But with that said, if the only issue of the new set was that just the cosmetics were unfinished, it wouldn't be that bad. It would be understandable since the gameplay would work. Does it work? Well, after taking about half a year break from TFT, because admittedly I was working on my own game, I came back, I dove into the queue, and the show began. So immediately after I accepted my queue, the client went blank, then it paused, then it minimized, and then I waited. And I waited. And I waited. About a minute later, the game launched, meaning that now we were in Unreal Engine environment. And the loading screen loaded up to like 77% with a completely blank screen. Then, one player popped up on screen and they couldn't have picked a better name. After which, 3% more loaded up and everyone else popped up. With no art. Or anything really. And after a small delay, all the art popped up as well, and then we were in a game. Yippee! Now at this point, you could tell that you were in a different engine. Or at least to a trained eye, you can definitely notice Unreal Engine rendering. It's mostly because of how Unreal Engine renders sheen and colors. Usually they are washed out. Though when it comes to the functionality of the game, it is a pretty smooth transition. But then, after the introduction, my little legend didn't pop out of the portal, he came from the sky. And then I noticed that my board didn't have a background. It is supposed to be a floating island in space, but that space is not supposed to be the ever-consuming black darkness of missing textures. But then, when the combat started, one of the things you can easily notice is the missing of some VFX. Or even when the VFX are there, they kinda feel off. And it might be because either the origin of the effect is offset, or it is because it feels like something was there before and now it's not there. My best example is the leaves and the grass that should pop up when you drop a unit on a board. You can see that the VFX are there, but the greens are not as vibrant as they used to be. Once again, this is because of how Unreal Engine is rendering colors. But thankfully that can be tweaked later. And the biggest giveaway of these are the orbs, which kind of feel like flat PNGs with some sparkles on top of them. Before they felt better. And then I zoomed in on my little legend and I noticed that it looked off too. Once again, when you get closer, you can see that the lighting just looks washed. You can see how white the nose is because the light is very aggressive, meaning it blends in with the blues, and the blues are less blue at that point. Also yes, I was forced into picking my good old mole because Baron was not available. And so, just like that, the visual quality bar got lowered a little bit. But I did play throughout the game, as I was trying to ignore how shiny some of the units might have felt, until I landed at some of the most irritating bugs. The Cho'Gath PvE round refused to show his health. The exact same thing also happened to Xerath. Gromp kept wiggling his feet. The top 4 animation looked pretty cool though, I like that one. But with the slight feeling of uncanny, I finished the game. And so, all was fine, but then I checked up on Reddit. And that's where people found the fun bugs. And so, some people got their XP locked so you couldn't buy XP anymore. People got issues where their phone's temperature went really high. For other people, the game just gave up. For some people, the bench overlaps the field. Crashes on an iPad were frequent. Stylus doesn't work when playing on an iPad. Apparently, the App Store gives you an infinite update loop. It is actually possible to lose your first round by default. Pings were removed from the game. Sometimes shop doesn't load units. Sometimes everyone gets a PvE round but you. Of course, there were also many jokes about the many unavailable tacticians, and pretty much every minute someone found a new bug. My god! Which is why it really does feel like the live servers are the new PvE. Because right now, I'm convinced that TFT is back in beta. And it is a beta that you couldn't avoid even if you wanted to, because everyone is forced into downloading this update. Yes, even if you play just League and you have never touched TFT, you can't avoid the 4 GB. And you know what sucks the most about this? The new set is actually good. I like it, and I'm not the only one apparently. It is very clean and very straightforward with no mechanics getting too complex. It is good, and all of this is overshadowing it pretty heavily. I can guarantee you there's gonna be many people who just skip the set entirely. And they will miss out on some of the cool new features added in. For example, I couldn't try this because I was playing on PC and we didn't get the Unreal client yet. But on mobile you can preview all the arenas and all the booms with all of their features individually. And none of these are pre-rendered videos, they are actually the real arenas in-game. And of course Riot can do that because Unreal Engine has pretty good data streaming. Now of course, Riot is aware of all of those issues, which is why they already gave us an official statement. Here they confirmed that this situation is not great, but they are still aiming to fulfill all the expectations. And so a B patch is aiming for live servers, which should fix about 24 major bugs. In fact, that patch might be live right now. And so this one is fixing the default graphics options. It cleans up memory for VFX so it doesn't crash the game. Responsiveness should be better during scouting or placing down items. Apparently Gnar had an interaction that would never stop combat. Sometimes music was overlapping. There were incorrect placements at the end of a game. Loading times should be faster. And finishers don't blow out your ears. In response, people were happy that we got an update, but everyone started asking for transparency. Because what happened kinda turned into a disaster. And the scariest part is, it seems like it's gonna take Riot a while to fix it all up. Because if they were just working on the cosmetics, again, that would be fine. But since they still have to clean up the entire game before they can start focusing on cosmetics, it doesn't look good. And don't worry, because the corporate train does not stop. The roadmap is already laid out, and they need to hit the next milestone. And from what we know, TFT can't really stop, because they wouldn't want to disappoint KDA now, would they?